My Pixar marathon continues my look at 2001's Monsters Incorporated, so let's open it up. Right off the bat, I really love this opening credit sequence with all the closet doors. It's clearly still going to be a very creative film visually. The film begins at what appears to be a child's bedroom, where monsters come in, but turns out to be a training simulation where Disney Monsters Incorporated show order. We're introduced to trainee Flem, voiced by Jeff Pigeon, and CEO Henry J. Warden III, voiced by James Coburn. Our leads, Sully, voiced by John Goodman, and Mike, voiced by Billy Crystal. Oh, the way this cast plays off one another is just great, and the design of the world and these monsters is fantastic and how well it's held up. It's the most expensive CG animated film ever at the time, costing $150 million to make. Mike is also in love with the reception of Celia, voiced by Jennifer Tilly, and held up by paperwork assigned by Ross, voiced by Bob Peterson. Elsewhere, Sully is going for her top scare against his rival Randall Boggs, voiced by Steve Buscemi, and also his own partner named Jeff Fungus, voiced by Frank Oz. Turns out the Muppets are a big influence on the monster design in this movie, to a point of even being seen as an honorary Muppet film before they officially joined the Mouse. Imagine that. The company, and by extension City Monstropolis, have an economy based on children's screens, but the kids themselves are potentially harmful to them. It's actually pretty clever, and we'll come back to that. Speaking of which, George Sanderson, voiced by Samuel Laura Black, learns this the hard way when the 2019 is triggered by a sock in his fur, and he and the place had to be disinfected by Child Detection Agency, or CDA. Also, a closet door is deemed unusable, the door is shredded, leaving behind only the knobs. This will also be important later. Waternoose also asks Sully a favor for some recruits, and the way he says that he'd do anything with the company is something that takes on new meaning after later viewings. Little sign up before I continue. Really designing the floor manager Jerry Slugworth, which was Steve Susskind, a red guy with 7 fingers on each hand. That's really neat. As Sully covers Mike's paperwork, he notices a door with flowers on it and it's active. On top of this, he's nearly found out by Randall, and then a small child is able to get through the door. Hiding her in a bed, we cut to Harryhausen's restaurant, named for the late, great Ray Harryhausen. As Sully lets Mike know what's happening, the kids loose in the restaurant. Hiding her in a takeout box, they take her back to their apartment, as her cries and laughter cause a power surge. Sully suggests sending the child back home, and while she's disguised, she is expecting the factory. Randall is also plotting something as a time where Sully's demonstration is getting closer. Her nickname is Boo, voiced by Mary Gibbs. She's almost outed, but Mike's able to cover her by saying they were hosting the company play. Also let something slip about a machine, and when Mike tells him about the cheating, Randall says the station will also have Boo's door. I also like how Boo's lines were pieced together by what Gibbs said while she was playing. She had trouble saying so while doing recordings that followed around the microphone. That's clever. As Mike finds Boo's door, he's caught by Randall. Randall then reveals he has something much more sinister in mind than breaking records. That is called Stream Extractor, programming test on Mike, so he disables it and frees his friend. This then is time for Sully's demonstration, but Boo is in the room, discovered by Waternoose. The child isn't toxic. Waternoose reveals his true nature when he has Mike Sully banished to the Himalayas. Fortunately, they encounter a friendly Yeti named voiced by John Ratzenberger, who even makes some snow cones. So the segment was influenced by Bumble from Rudolph. Sully goes back via a village downhill, and after Mike finds his way back, the two rescue Boo, and then they need to get her back home before it's too late. There's a chase between them, and Randall cross doors all across the factory, going from Japan to Paris to the railing holding all the doors. I can only wonder how this will look in 3D. Too bad that revision didn't do so great. Able to advance Randall to the trail limit of a bug city in Bug's life. Now the time has come to send Boo home. Warnings confronts Sully, but he ends up being trapped in the simulator, audience from the process. It also turns out that Ross has been working undercover CDA for 2.5 years. She agrees to let Sully send Boo home, but her door has to be destroyed after they say goodbye. Yet, it's not really the end just yet. Monsters Inc. has now a new power source, laughter. Closed in the company being stronger than before. Mike has rebuilt Boo's door in secret, so I was able to see her again one last time. This has held up much better than I expected. On top of the story and characters remaining treated all this time, the voice cast is great in this, especially in Goodman and Crystal's roles. The artwork and monster design is wonderful, especially like how the individual renders each strand of Sully's fur. The film, on top of yet more acclaim, also briefly set the record for fastest animated film to break the $100 million domestic mark. Also making $250 million in the US, $528 million worldwide. It was 9 when this film first came out. I still love it after all these years. I find ratings 4 out of 4. Next time, I look at Finding Nemo Pixar Marathon later.